So what is QuoteWerks? QuoteWerks is the market-leading sales quoting and proposal solution. We have about 76,000 users in over 100 countries. It's basically just so you can create detailed quotes and proposals for your clients. So it makes it very easy to quickly generate these documents for your clients. We have integrations with the IT distributors. We have integrations with ConnectWise, obviously, and also QuickBooks and Sage 50. So if you're using those systems by themselves or in conjunction with one another, QuoteWerks will fit into that space nicely. For who uses QuoteWerks, we have a lot of MSPs, a lot of VARs that use the software. It's not necessarily industry specific, but a lot of the features we have are geared toward the IT industry. So if you're using or if you're creating quotes and proposals that have these products and services on the document, QuoteWerks would probably be a good fit for you. We do support line item quoting as well as custom proposals. You can even use them in conjunction with one another, and we do support recurring revenue. So if you do quote hardware as a service or software as a service, we also support that in QuoteWerks as well, so you can actually break down monthly revenues for your clients on the documents. So QuoteWerks and ConnectWise. What QuoteWerks would allow you to do is actually create the document in QuoteWerks itself, so you can create your content-rich proposals, your simple line item quotes, a combination of them, create these templated documents that you can send out to your clients, and it's always going to be branded with your information. So being in marketing, that's always a big point that we like to push, is that you want to have that information branded with your company's contact information, your logos, colors, all that information. So you're going to be able to do that with QuoteWerks. We have a fantastic integration with ConnectWise. We're able to create and update sales opportunities, schedule follow-up calls, create service tickets, create sales orders if you need to. You can even create purchase orders from QuoteWerks into ConnectWise as well. Then through QuoteWerks, you'll be able to deliver the documents to the client. So this is where the client can actually view the document. They can post questions. And you'll receive notifications so we can actually track those interactions between you and the client, so you can see when the client viewed a quote, if they posted a comment, if they accepted it, if they made payment. All that information will be available to you as well. There is some reporting in QuoteWerks as well. We do have some dashboards as well as customized management reports that you can create. A lot of that may already be done in your ConnectWise installation, so if that's true, that's fine. You don't have to use QuoteWerks for that, but it is available. It's just something we like to make known. And then we can do actual orders through QuoteWerks with Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synex, and D&H. So if you're using any of those distributors, we can actually set those up in QuoteWerks and actually place the orders through QuoteWerks that way. So the workflow in QuoteWerks is going to be very simple. First off, we always like to start with selecting the contact from the opportunity for in ConnectWise. The next one is start building your documents. So start selecting your products, start selecting your services. Who are you sourcing those items from? This is where you're going to make that decision. Next is obviously deliver the document to your client. So let them look over the quote or proposal, make any adjustments as needed, and then you can redeliver it. Once the client has viewed it, okayed it, they accept it, possibly make payment if you accept credit cards, then you can actually update the opportunity in ConnectWise automatically. So we'll actually update the opportunity as one in ConnectWise once your client has accepted it. All the items flow over to the opportunity, so you already have that information in ConnectWise. Then in QuoteWerks, you have the option, if you want to place the order through QuoteWerks, you can actually check your vendor pricing again, make sure nothing has changed, negotiate with your vendors if you need to, and then you can actually place the online order directly in QuoteWerks. Once that's done, we do have the option to create the PO in QuickBooks, Sage 50, or ConnectWise if you want us to. And then we do have the ability to track that order all the way to delivery and fulfillment. So you can actually see the order status of that information in QuoteWerks. And that's something that we'll make sure we touch on today. If you do have questions after the webinar today, feel free to go to our website. It has a lot of information, or contact us directly. We have a lot of videos, help files, live and recorded webinars, a forum, great place to interact with other QuoteWerks users, as well as multiple partners. We do offer email and phone support, so if you're still evaluating QuoteWerks, definitely feel free to contact us. You should all have an account rep assigned to you, so they can help answer questions. They can do a demonstration for you. Whatever kind of assistance you need, you can always contact them for that. All right, so I told you it was going to be fast, pretty painless. So now we're going to go through actually using QuoteWerks with ConnectWise. So the first thing we're going to do is just a brief introduction of the software. So if you've never seen QuoteWerks before, this is what it looks like when you download it and install it. Now the main screen here is what we call the quote workbook. This is what these 6 tabs are consisting of. The document item screen is kind of like your main space in QuoteWerks. This is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. So when you start adding products and services to your document, they're going to start to show up here. Anything on this document items screen can be changed. So if you want to rename your columns, change the column sizing, change the names, move them around, change item descriptions, quantities, pricing, all that information, anything on this screen can be changed here. The Sold To, Shipped To tab is going to be your customer contact information. This can be pulled directly from ConnectWise. So we're not actually doing a live link or a live search or anything like that. Or I'm sorry, we're not doing any kind of import. We're actually doing a live search. So when you search for that contact, if they don't exist in ConnectWise or is not found in QuoteWorks, it's because it doesn't exist in ConnectWise yet. You do have the ability to create the contact in ConnectWise if they don't exist. So that's a nice little kind of workaround. You know, if it's a brand new client that you're quoting out and you haven't put their information in ConnectWise yet, you can fill it out here in the Sold To, and then this gold button will actually appear, and you can see it'll let you create that new contact or that new company in ConnectWise. Your Sale Info tab is going to be your document-specific information. So this is where you'll set things such as the tax rate, the owner of the document, you know, who's the sales rep who owns the document, the expiration date of the document. If you have contract dates you want to reference, that type of information will be set here as well. On your Notes tab, you have 4 different notes fields. We have the introduction and closing on the left-hand side and the purchasing and internal on the right-hand side. The introduction and closing notes are typically notes you would want the client to see. So if you have information that maybe you're going to use in kind of like a cover letter or an executive summary and you want to put some notes here, you can use these fields, and that information will be something that the client actually sees. The purchasing and internal note fields are very useful if you just need to add fields maybe for yourself or for someone else. Maybe if you're collaborating on this document with another user, you can actually put those notes here, and you don't have to worry about the client ever seeing those. These are just going to be internal notes just in QuoteWorks. The Custom tab is extremely useful if you have additional fields that you need for your quote or proposal, but you don't see them in QuoteWorks. So what we've done is we added a custom field here, so you can actually customize these different fields and add them to your quote or proposal document. In this case, I've renamed the first 2 account number and account name, and then the third one site name. So if you hold Control on your keyboard and double-click, you can actually change that field name. And that goes true with the other tabs as well. If you want to rename or repurpose a field in QuoteWorks, very easy to do. Just hold Control, double-click on that field name. So here, if I just want to call this Test and then hit OK, you can see it'll update that field name to Test. So it's very easy to customize QuoteWorks, you know, kind of as you're working in it. It is important to note that this is a site-wide setting, so if you do make this change, it's going to change it for everyone in your organization that uses QuoteWorks, so just something to keep in mind. The Links tab is going to allow you to attach additional documentation to your quote or proposal. So if you have a statement of work, Visio or CAD drawing, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint presentation, Excel document, Word document, PDF document, any type of document that you want to attach to quote or proposal, you can attach it here. Very useful if the client sent you like an RFP or an RFQ, and as you're building the document you want to be able to reference it easily. That's a great thing you can attach here. Or like I said, if you have a statement of work that you're sending out to this client, you can attach it here as well. You can either drag and drop the file to link to it, or you can click on the Add File Link button, and this will let you navigate in Windows for the document that you'd like to select. One thing to keep in mind is we're not moving the document here, we're just linking to it. It's basically like a shortcut to that document. So do make sure that if you are sharing documents here or linking to documents, if someone else needs access to it, make sure it's on the shareable location in your server, or you know, if it's even in ConnectWise or something like that, just make sure that everyone has access to where it's saved. Once you've added anything to the Linked Resources tab, you can choose whether or not it's sent to the client or not. So it is going to be, you're actually going to have control over if it's an internal document that's not sent or an external document that is sent. So I'll show you where you can make that selection as well. Up at the top, we have some toolbar shortcuts. These are just some of the more commonly used menu options. So if you look at the very, very top here, we have quite a few different menu options with a lot of different options. So what the shortcut toolbar will do is just kind of let you navigate around QuoteWorks a little quicker without having to go through the menu options. So your New button will let you start with a new blank document in QuoteWorks. Open will let you search for your previously created documents. This is where you can search for any document that's been created in QuoteWerks based on your security settings. You can search by the document name, the document number, the status, is it open, won, closed, that kind of thing, a specific sales rep that created it, the date it was created, the expiration date, the company it was created for, the contact that it was created for. You'll see all these fields are available to make it very easy to find a specific or range of documents that you're looking for. The save icon, obviously that's going to save the document in QuoteWerks. This is also what's going to trigger the integration with ConnectWise. So when you're ready to send your information from QuoteWerks to ConnectWise, you're going to click on the save icon, and you can see here at the bottom it has a ConnectWise integration checkboxes, so you can start sending the information over. We're going to get into that in just a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next icon. But as long as you can remember that the save is what triggers the integration, that's all you really need to know about how to use the integration itself. The revision icon is how we handle revisions in QuoteWerks. Extremely useful if you've ever sent out a document to a client, they come back to ask you to make changes. Instead of having to start from scratch or do like a file copy or file save as to the original document and then keep track of the multiple documents, you can simply make the changes to the original, click revision, and it makes a copy for you automatically. It'll also add a -01 to the end of the document number, so you know it's the first revision of that original document. Each revision you make will continue to count up sequentially. So the first one would be your document number, then -01, then -02, and -03, and so on. So it makes it very easy to keep track of the number of revisions you've created for a client. You can also view all the revisions that you've created for the client under the View menu. There's an option that says Document Revisions. And obviously I don't have any created since I'm working in a blank document, but if I did, it would actually show me a list of all the revisions that I've created for that client, and you can see there's an open option, so you can either double click on it or click on open once you've selected it to view that particular document. The deliver icon, very straightforward. This is when you are ready to send the document to the client. So when you're ready to deliver to the client, you can click on the deliver icon. We're going to go through this a little bit later here, but you can see this is where you're actually going to build the outputs. You're going to select from a list of templates created in QuoteWerks. We call them layouts. So you're going to select your layout, and you're going to select exactly what you want the document to look like before you send it to your client. The dashboard, this is where you can actually see some information on QuoteWerks, kind of what's going on with your sales reps. The first dashboard that you'll see is called the My Summary dashboard. The My Summary dashboard is going to be specific to your user. So whoever you're logged in as in QuoteWerks, this is going to show you your My Summary information. It'll show you a quota if you've set one for this month, kind of where you are. Since the beginning of the month or the middle of the month for me, and I don't create too many quotes, I don't have any orders at this time, but you can see how I did last month and 2 months ago and how many were converted to orders. You can also see a list of recent documents, and you can see they are hyperlinked. So if you click on it, it'll actually open up that document in QuoteWerks for you. Additionally, and this is one of my favorite features, this is actually going to show you any quotes you have expiring within the next 7 days. So this is going to show you a list of all your documents that are expiring within the next 7 days, so you can actually follow up with the client or just kind of check on it and see what's going on with the client, kind of, what's going on, see if they're going to move forward or not, or what their status is. On the right-hand side, you'll also see this notifications panel. The notifications are actually pulling directly from ConnectWise. So if you use any kind of RMM tool or really anything that integrates with ConnectWise that creates opportunities for you, you can actually have it set where QuoteWerks looks for a specific opportunity with a specific status, such as needs quote. Maybe you create a new status in ConnectWise called needs quote, and then your users know that anytime you create an opportunity and it has the status of needs quote or maybe another status that you want to choose, it's actually going to post a notification in QuoteWerks for you saying that, hey, you need to create a quote for this opportunity. If you've already added products and services to that opportunity, QuoteWerks will pull those in as well, so you don't have to start from scratch. So if maybe you had a client on the phone and you started building the opportunity in ConnectWise and then you got distracted, or something else came up, so you set the status to needs quote. That way, next time you're in QuoteWerks, you need to finish that document for the client. You'll actually have that notification here, and you can click on the create quote for this ConnectWise opportunity. This will actually open up a new quote in QuoteWerks and pull any of those products or services associated with that opportunity into QuoteWerks. There's also the opportunities dashboard. So up at the top, if you see here, I was on my summary and then I clicked on Opportunities. The Opportunities dashboard is going to give you a little more information on what you're doing in QuoteWerks. Let's go to the last one just so you can see a little more information here. And this is going to show me how many quotes I had open for a selected period. So in this case, last month, how many were closed, my top 5 documents won, so I can actually see kind of how I did. If I had any quotes still open from last month, I can see which ones those are, so maybe I need to follow up on those. If I had any lost opportunities, maybe I go back in a couple months and say, hey, let me see how they did. Maybe they didn't move forward with anything, and we can re-engage this client. So you can kind of see that information in QuoteWerks. It's an easy way to kind of see how you're doing in the software without having to run any kind of report in ConnectWise or even QuoteWerks. Just shows you kind of like a snapshot of what you're doing here. We do show your year-to-date summary as well as each quarter, so you can actually see how you've done over the year, and it'll calculate it down at the bottom for you as well, so kind of keep you up to date on how you're doing in the software for the year. QuoteValley is the online delivery tool for QuoteWerks. So if you are sending out documents to your clients and you'd like them to be able to view and electronically sign and accept, you're going to be using QuoteValley. The QuoteValley dashboard here, so if I click on the QuoteValley icon, this will load my dashboard. This is going to show me a list of all my activities with all my documents with all my clients. So every time a client views a document, makes a payment, changes an option, accepts a document, anything like that, I'm going to receive a notification here in my inbox, and that'll let me know that they've done something with that document. Once I've kind of looked over it, if there's no action I need to take, I can dismiss it from my inbox. QuoteValley will also send you an email notification for the most common or the kind of larger or more important notifications. So when like a client views a document for the first time, that's a pretty important one. So we're going to send you an email for that one. If a client posts a comment, we're going to send you an email notification for that one as well. Same thing if they accept or make payment. So if any of those happen, you'll actually receive an email notification as well as this inbox notification. However, if a client just views a quote for the 25th time, we're not going to send you an email every time that happens, because you don't need your email being filled up with a bunch of notifications that your client has viewed a quote. They've viewed it at least once, so they have it, so they can view it as many times as they need to. If you really want to know, you can always come in here in your inbox, but we're only going to send you the email notifications for the important steps, for when something's actually happening with the document, not just, hey, they looked at it again kind of thing. Your products icon is where your products and services will be in QuoteWerks. This is where you can pull your items and start building your document. We can link directly to the ConnectWise product list, so if you have your items already set up in ConnectWise and you just want to be able to pull them into QuoteWerks, we can do that. We also have our integration with Utilize, which is where you'll search for items from like Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synex, and D&H. If you have other vendors you work with and you want to be able to import their items into QuoteWerks, you can do that here. You can actually set up product lists for essentially as many vendors as you need if they're not set up in ConnectWise or Utilize already. Bundles are groups or kits of items in QuoteWerks. So if you sell a lot of items together in kind of like a package deal, you can use bundles for that. That way you don't have to individually select them each time. If you're familiar with QuickBooks, it's kind of like selling a kit or something very similar. And then these other icons we're not going to use too much, so we're not going to really go through that. But if you do have questions about those, I'll be happy at the end of the call to discuss those. And then the purchasing, this is when you're actually ready to place the order through QuoteWerks. You can click on our purchasing icon here. So it'll open up our purchasing window, and we can go through the ordering process as well as creating a purchase order in ConnectWise if necessary. Okay, so very quick introduction about QuoteWerks. Like I said, if I went over anything too fast, at the end of the webinar, just let me know. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions for you. So let's go ahead and get started with how do we create a new document in QuoteWerks? Well, this is going to be the first step. So if you remember from our workflow, we said, well, we want to select the contact first. So where do we select the contact? That's going to be on our Sold to, Shipped to tab. So let's click on our Sold to, Shipped to tab. And now we can actually search in ConnectWise for a contact to pull into QuoteWerks. And the way we do that is by clicking on the magnifying glass here. And this is going to bring up our Lookup ConnectWise contact window. I'm just going to move this to the right so it's a little easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. And you're going to be able to search by company name, first name, last name, or phone number. So in this case, I'm just going to search by company name, which is, I'm going to use Aspire Technologies, which is our company. And this is going to show me a list of all the companies that have contacts listed in ConnectWise at this point. So I'm going to make my selection, and let's go ahead and select, we'll do Joshua here. So we'll select Joshua, and you'll see I have the option to pull him into the sold to, shipped to, billed to, or all. Sold to obviously correlates with my sold to, shipped to with my shipped to, and billed to with my billed to. If I click all, it'll populate all 3 fields with that same contact information. Now, if you have multiple sites, QuoteWerks will actually prompt you to select the correct site. So if I select Brian here and I want to pull him into my shipped to, QuoteWerks is actually going to say, hey, you have multiple sites listed for this company. Which site do you want to sell to? And you can select a different site if you need to. Once you've selected your contact, if you have any open existing documents for this particular customer or client, your active quotes panel to the right will show up. And this will show you that, hey, you have 3 quotes open for this client. This is very, very useful if you've been out on vacation or someone was covering for you while you were sick or something like that, and you're going through your emails and you see a quote or see an email requesting a quote. This just kind of lets you know, hey, quote was created, and you can see this is when the quote was created. So this is over a year old, so I'm not really going to worry about those. But if it was created, last week when you were out, it gives you the chance to kind of look over it, make sure that it's not the same quote, so you're not duplicating efforts. Just another time-saving feature there. So now that we have our clients, now we can start building out our document in QuoteWerks. In QuoteWerks, you have the ability to organize your document into different sections using what we call heading lines. So on the Document Items tab, if I right-click, this brings up my Edit menu. It's actually the same menu as if you clicked on the Edit option up at the top. It's obviously just a lot faster to right-click instead of having to go up to the Edit menu each time. So I'm going to go down to where it says Insert Heading, and this is where I can start building my document. I'm going to choose a heading description, and in this case we're just going to do a very vague description. We'll say hardware. And then I'm going to go ahead and right click and choose insert heading again, and let's do one for services, and then let's do one more for optional items. Now your headings can be whatever you'd like. You can call them whatever you'd like. If you want to call them products and services, you could do that. If maybe you're doing different offices, so you're saying, hey, this is office 1, this is for the corner office. If you're doing different phases of a project, if you want to say, hey, this is for phase 1, this is for phase 2, you can do that. However you want to organize it, it's up to you. This is just kind of the simple way that we're doing that today. This is optional. You don't have to set up your document this way. So if you don't have different headings or different sections in your document, you can skip this step completely. We do also support document templates. So if you do have maybe a lot of headings, maybe you have 15 or 20 headings that go in a lot of your documents or just a couple of them, you can actually create a document template in QuoteWerks that already has these heading lines, so you don't have to start from scratch each time. You can even set it up where your document templates already have products and services that you offer on a regular basis, so that your sales reps already have some of the items in there that they need, and then they can just kind of add and subtract from those specific items in that template. So let's go ahead and start adding items to my document. So to select an item, we're going to click on our products icon, and it's going to bring up our product lookup window. And I'm just going to make this a little bigger so it's a little easier for you guys to see. And the first one we're going to search through is Utilize. So Utilize is where you would search from your vendors for like Ingram Micro, Tech Data, Synex, TNH. So if you use one or all 4 of those vendors, any of the 4, this is where you're going to search for those items. Utilize is a live lookup, so this means that you don't have to maintain an item database for those distributors. You're actually going to be able to search in real time to see what those items, what those distributors carry. So maybe for this customer, we want to quote out a Cisco switch. So I'm going to type in Cisco switch. Now in my search for a field, I can type in whatever I'd like. I could search by keyword, which I'm going to do here. I could also search by the manufacturer part number. So if I know there's a specific part number I want to sell, I can type that in. Same thing with the vendor part number. If you want to type in the vendor part number, you can do that. If you want to search by the item's description, you can do that as well. It's up to you. So if I type in Cisco switch, that's a pretty broad category to search by. So Utilize is going to come back and say, hey, there's 14,124 items found that match that description. So why don't you narrow it down a little bit, make it a little easier to find what you're looking for. Utilize has the ability to kind of categorize your items by different manufacturers, by different categories, and as well as features and attributes. So maybe I know I'm looking for, let's say, let's go into our product family, and I know I'm looking for the 200 series of my Cisco switch. So I can click on the 200, and that's going to limit it down to 50 items. So that's a lot more manageable than 14,000 items. So this is going to make it a lot easier to find the item that I'm looking for. You'll also see here we have our Utilize distributors. This will show you a list of the vendors that typically carry this type of item. Now, it's not always going to be maybe sometimes they'll have it, maybe sometimes they won't, but this is a good indication that they do carry this item. So if I click on this top one here, this will show my item from Edelweiss, so I got a nice product picture here. And then it shows me that D&H, Ingram Micro, and Tech Data carry this item. Now to get pricing and availability, I'm simply going to click on the real-time button here, so this little lightning bolt icon. And this is actually going to go out to my distributors using my credentials and get my pricing and availability. So it's not getting your pricing and availability, it's not getting the default price that comes with it, it's getting your actual pricing because I have credentials in QuoteWerks that goes out and says, okay, this is Brandon from Aspire. He's looking up this item. Here's his pricing for this particular item. Edelweiss will automatically highlight in green your best cost. You'll see here Tech Data has the best cost, but they don't have any in stock. So actually, if I go to Ingram Micro, they have it in stock. They have 8 items currently in stock, and then they have 12 back ordered. And then you can even see here it actually breaks down the warehouse, which items are in stock. And the D&H has the second best price, and they have it in stock from my warehouse that I usually ship from. So I'm going to go ahead and source this one from D&H since they have the best price with stock at this time. Down here, you also see we can see pricing from CDW, Newegg, Dell, ProVantage, and Staples. So this will actually let you check with these online merchants to see if they sell the item at a better price. In this case, Newegg does. And this is very useful if you want to see kind of where you want to price this particular item. So I'm going to go ahead and source it from D&H in this case, but you can see here how it can be very useful that if your customer goes to Newegg, they can actually see, okay, it would be priced at Newegg. One important thing to note about this is that we're not looking up your account with any of the online merchants here. This is just the consumer pricing. It basically just kind of gives you, hey, this is what they're selling it for if your client decides to price shop you kind of thing. That's what it's showing here. So I'm going to go ahead and source it from D&H. To source it, I'm just simply going to double click on it. And this brings up my Add Item Assistant. The Add Item Assistant allows me to make changes to this particular item before I add it to my document. So I can use the quantity, simply click on the up and down arrows. I can just type it in. Maybe I want to quote out 2 of them. I can set my price modifier. So if you say, we usually mark things up 15% from cost, I can type in M15. That would be a 15% markup. If you just want to type in the price, let's go ahead and sell it for $275 even. You can type that in. If you do margins, you say, we need to have a 10% margin on every hardware item we sell. That's going to be P10 in QuoteWerks, and then I'll give you that 10% margin. If you forget our shortcuts or as you're learning, simply click on the ellipsis button here, and this will let you select markup or margin if you can't remember if you're supposed to use an M or a P. If you also want to discount from the list price, you can do that as well by clicking on the discount percent. Once you've set your price, you can also check price history for this item. So if you've ever sold this particular part number to this specific customer that you have selected on your Sold to Ship to tab, you can click on the icon here and you can see if you've ever quoted them previously. Makes it very easy to stay consistent with your pricing. So you can say, oh, maybe it's a reorder and you can't remember what you charged them last week or last month. They come back to you, they say, hey, can you give me that same price? You say, yeah, sure, no problem. They're a good client. You want to keep a good relationship with them. You can quickly check, okay, this is what I quoted them last time when they purchased it, and give them that same price. The price history for this item will show you everyone that you've quoted to, not just that specific customer. So there's two price history options. It's specific to the customer you have selected on the Sold to Ship to, and then the price history of the item, which will show you what you quoted this specific item to any client, whether it was last week or last year. You'll be able to see all that information here, and you can see the customer price, the quantity, the date, the cost, the modifier used, the type of document it was in, the result the customer was used for. All that information is going to be available to you here. And then the last thing I want to show on the Add Item Assistant is these heading lines. So this is where it can be very useful for the heading lines as a sales rep. So when you're building your document in QuoteWerks, heading lines may not look very useful to you. Extremely useful for your client because they can see clearly the different sections in the document. But in QuoteWerks, when you're adding the items, you can quickly say, okay, I know this is a hardware item. I want to put it under my hardware section. So I select hardware, click add, and it adds it under my hardware section. And that just makes it very easy to make sure you're putting your items exactly where you want them to be in the document. If you put it under the wrong section, it's not a big deal. We can cut and paste or drag and drop the item around the document as needed. You'll also notice Edelweiss has a couple additional tabs. We have an accessories tab, so if you want to include maybe optional items or maybe there's a service that's included with this item that you want to add. That'll be added under the Accessories tab. You'll see here there's a drop-down. There's also a Spec Sheets tab, which will allow you to add more technical information to this product or service. So if you want to include this information to your client, you can do that. A lot of the items will also come with upsell or similar items tabs. This is a little bit of an older item, so it doesn't really have those anymore. But any of the newer items, if there's a similar item, maybe this item's not in stock by your distributor and you want to see similar items or compare it for your client, there'll actually be extra tabs for that as well. So if you're using any items from ConnectWise, we can click on our ConnectWise product source up at the top left. And if I click Show All, this is actually going to load all the items that I have from ConnectWise. And you can see here, I can actually select multiple items at once to add them to my document. If you want to search for an item, you can search by the manufacturer, vendor part number, item description, or manufacturer part numbers. It makes it very easy to find an item that you want to add to the document. So in this case, I'm just going to select these two Sonic Wall items, and I'll hit Select Add. And again, it brings up my Add Item Assistant. And we're going to say this is an optional item, so let's go ahead and add it under our Optional Items section. Click Add, and adds it under Optional there. Same thing here. We'll say Optional, click Add, and adds it under Optional. So you can see if I wanted to pull items from another database, maybe this database here, and maybe we want to add all these items. Maybe there's some common items that we add to our document. You can multi-select items by holding Shift or Control, and then we can choose Select Add, and we can say, okay, this is hardware. This is also hardware, and we'll just go through and kind of quickly add these items to our document. Then we have a couple services. One of the nice things about QuoteWerks is that we do support recurring services. So if you have items that you sell, that are monthly, quarterly, annual, and you want to set that pricing up in QuoteWerks, you can do that. And I know ConnectWise doesn't allow you to do the recurring items yet in the product database. In QuoteWerks, you can actually do that. So you can actually set up your items as recurring. That way you don't have to manually modify it every time you want to quote out that particular item. So there's another thing that can save you a lot of time when you're building your document in QuoteWerks. So I'm going to select these two services to add to my document. And again, I can simply select under my Services tab or my Services heading, and they'll be added under my Services. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of the product lookup screen. Now, I have all these items on my document, and you can see here, if I double-click in the description field, it'll show my entire item's description. The description field holds about 32,000 characters, so if you do want to change an item's description, you can do so here. Very easy to make adjustments. And the nice thing is, because the items are now in the Document Items tab, they're not going to retroactively update your product list. So if you are pulling items from your ConnectWise and you're worried about your sales reps coming in here and making changes, to maybe simplify the descriptions for the client, you don't have to worry about it updating. It's not going to do that. It's going to be just for this document is the information that we use here. You can also adjust your cost, your unit price, price modifier, all that information. So if you look here, maybe for my hardware items, I say, 10% margin on this large of a quote. That's a lot. Maybe we're going to cut the customer break and we're only going to look for a 7% margin. So I can actually update all these items at once by selecting them as I did, right-click, and then I'm going to choose Apply Price Modifier. And then we'll set our margin to 8%. I can hit OK, and you can see it updated all my selected items with the same margin. So it makes it very easy to stay consistent with your price and make changes on the fly, kind of as you negotiate with your vendors and also with your client. Maybe with my services, we have a little more leeway, so we want to go ahead and maybe we want to mark these up 15% from cost to get a little more from the client. You can see how easy it is to make those changes on the fly. You can manually just adjust the price. So if you said, I just want to sell this item for $270, you can just type that in, and that'll update here. We will track your margin up at the top as well as your profit. So if you highlight an item, it'll show you what you've received. If you don't have any items highlighted, it'll do it for the entire document. So it'll update kind of as you move through the document and as you make changes. You'll see this item type field is actually telling me, if it's a product, a service, or maybe it's an other charge. In this case, it's optional. The item type is pretty important in QuoteWerks because this is how we determine how an item is going to be sent to ConnectWise. Now, I have mine defaulted that if the item type is blank, go ahead and send it over as a product. If I wanted to send this item to ConnectWise as a service, though, I can simply type in service in the item type, or if I double-click, I can choose from a list of my item types that are available. And if one doesn't exist, I can always create a new one as well. So it makes it easy just to make sure that when your items are going over to ConnectWise, they're going to go over exactly where you want them to go. If something's not going over correctly, that's typically where you're going to want to make the adjustment. It's just look at the item type, and you can make that quick change. Now, every item in QuoteWerks has what we like to refer to as item attributes. So if I select one of my optional items here and I right-click, see there's an option that says Edit Line Attribute. The line attributes are how we determine what type of product or service this is in QuoteWerks. What I mean by that is this is where you can actually set, okay, is this item optional, yes or no? If an item is optional, it'll show up on the document for the client, but it won't be included in the quote total, it won't be included in the opportunity unless you check that box for is selected. So if you want to offer optional items to your client, but you don't want them to be included in the total, then you just leave this unchecked. If you want them to be able to deselect it via Quote Valet, then you're going to want to go ahead and set it as optional, and that'll create a checkbox on the Quote Valet quote. So it serves basically a dual purpose, is where you can actually offer optional items for your client and also have them checkable or non-checkable on the Quote Valet quote. I do recommend usually having them checked or included, then the client can actually uncheck it instead of you already doing it for them. So seem to see a lot more sales when users actually already have the items checked for their clients instead of unchecking them. Down here, you'll see you have the option to change the tax code. So if it's taxable or non-taxable, you can adjust that. If you want to hide the price, extremely useful if you're offering anything kind of like a group. Maybe you're selling items as a package, and you don't want to show the individual prices for your items. You just want to give them, hey, here's your subtotal for these items, that kind of information. You can do that very easily by hiding the prices of individual items. We can also hide quantity. This is extremely useful for anyone that's offering services. When you hide the quantity of your items for anything like maybe labor, installation, maybe on-site services, anything like that, where it's like an hourly charge or maybe you charge by every half hour, instead of the client seeing how much you're charging them for or how much you're quoting them for, you can hide the quantity and it'll just show, oh, the installation charge is this much. They won't see the individual charge or how much they're being charged for. So that's a really nice feature that you can actually choose which items show quantity and which don't, specifically for those services that might be an hourly charge. Print line, again, very useful if you're offering items in like a group package. Maybe you don't even want to confuse the client with, hey, this item that we offer, this package has 25 different items. We don't want them to have to review that. We just want to show them that, hey, this package, our IT Gold package, is this much, and that's it. And then everything else will be included at a later time. We'll give them a rundown later, but at least for this quote, we just want to show them that. You can choose not to print the line for the items. They'll still be included in the quote total, still be included in your opportunity, just won't show up on the document for the client. Print picture, if you don't want your items to show up, the pictures to show up with the items, you can choose to turn that off. So if you're pulling items specifically from Eatalize with pictures, you can choose not to have them appear. And then if you have any items that are recurring, so let's go ahead and let me mark this item as optional as well. So if you have any items that are recurring, such as these services here, you can actually choose what type of billing cycle. So is it weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual? And then when does the cycle start, essentially? Does it start at the beginning of the cycle, which would be the beginning of the week, beginning of the month, beginning of the quarter, beginning of the year, or is it a specific date, like does it start today and it goes for a year? So if we wanted to say, okay, include that first payment in the document total, check that box, and then do you want to use the contract dates from the document, which are set on the Sale Info tab, or do you want to specify your dates? You can do that. Either one is fine. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And you can see we can actually bust out our recurring monthly for the entire document for that that month and on that document, so the client can see exactly what the charge would be. All right, a couple other things I wanted to mention before we actually send this information to ConnectWise. If you right-click, there's a couple other options. If you need to set or create or add a line item on the fly, you can use a blank line for that. We also have the ability to insert a comment line. So if you just want to put more of a description, some text about a specific line item in the document, maybe something for clarification, you can use the comment line for that. It won't have a quantity or price associated with it. It'll just be that description text. We also have the ability to add subtotals. So if you wanted to subtotal out your different sections, maybe show the client, okay, here's your hardware subtotal and here's your software subtotal. You can break that out for the client. You can even type in here if you wanted to. So if I wanted to call this my services subtotal and my hardware subtotal, I could do that. You can also break it out on your layout itself. So if you don't want to show it here, I'm going to show you in a layout that you can have it kind of separated on the layout as well, so the client can see it there as well. So up to you how you want to handle that. We also have the ability to add % discount and % charge line items. So if you wanted to, maybe customer's a good loyal customer, you're going to give them a discount, or maybe you're just offering a discount for that month or for that week, get some more sales in, you can always add it as another line item. Same thing for % charge. Maybe they typically pay by credit card or by check, but they want to pay by credit card, and you need to charge them that 3% fee or the 4% fee or whatever it is. You can add that onto the document that way as well. So a lot of flexibility there. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is grouping the items together. So if you wanted to sell, maybe these 3 items, this is a group, I want to sell them as a group to the client, I can right-click and choose Convert to Group, and this will actually group those items together for me automatically. It's also a way that you can sell items as like a hardware as a service kind of deal. So if you want to say, hey, this particular item they're going to pay for monthly, you can actually do that by, when you convert it to a group, just check that box for convert amount to recurring. You'll see it'll set as monthly. You can specify your dates, the term, and even the APR. Put that information in there, and then we'll group it. If we just want to do a regular group, hey, we just want to sell this as a package deal, I can hit OK. And you can see now those items are highlighted, and then this top one is going to be the group description. So this is what the client's going to see. So if I wanted to call this my Cisco Gold package, I could put that information in there, and then you'll see the pricing has become grayed out. That means that it's hidden from the client on the document. Obviously, you can see it because you're working with it here in QuoteWerks, but when you deliver the document to the client, they wouldn't actually be able to see the individual pricing here. They'd still be able to see the items, which you can change if you want. If you don't want them to see that, you can change that. But by default, they'll be able to see the items, but not the individual prices. If you ever want to remove items from a group, maybe you put them in a group, or you preloaded a bundle and you add it to the document, you can simply delete the header line of the group, and the items will go back to being individual items in your document. So like I said, everything on this document item screen is going to be really flexible and really easy to make changes to. And the last thing I wanted to mention before we save it over to ConnectWise is that if you forgot to pull any information from Utilize, anytime you see this Utilize panel window button, this will actually let you load up the information from Utilize. So anytime you see that window or that little icon, that'll open up the Utilize panel for you, so you can update pricing. Maybe it's been a couple days since they looked at it, so you want to update their pricing for them. You can quickly do that here on this screen. All right, so let's go ahead and send this information to ConnectWise. So if you remember what we were talking about before, the way we send information to ConnectWise is going to be on the save. So we want to save our document in QuoteWerks anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. By default, the document name is going to be the company that we're selling to and today's date. That's just the default naming convention we use. You can change that if you'd like. It's just the default, just to make it easy to find documents. Naming the document, that's just like if you're saving a Word document or an Excel document. When you click File Save or File Save As, you need to give it a name. That's what we're doing here. The document number will be assigned automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about going through and keeping track of document numbers. QuoteWerks is going to handle that for you. The status of the document, this is similar if you're like setting opportunities in ConnectWise. What's the status of the document? Is it open? Is it created, drafted? Whatever you want to do. Typically we use open, but you can set it to whatever you'd like. The default is going to be open, but if you look here, there's an ellipsis button. You can click on it and choose the different status if you'd like to. And then project number, this is extremely useful if you have multiple quotes for the same project. You can actually view which quotes have closed for that project, so you can manually assign a secondary number to these quotes. Makes it easy to kind of track revenue for a specific project, if you're doing different phases and that kind of thing. And then down below here, this is where our ConnectWise integration happens. So this is where you're basically telling QuoteWerks, these are the options for the ConnectWise integration. Essentially choose the ones you want to do. So the first one's going to be, well, we definitely want to create the opportunity because it hasn't been created yet, so we need to do that. We can also create a linked document, which is basically a copy of the QuoteWerks quote in ConnectWise, kind of like a shortcut. So if you click on it, it'll actually open up that quote in QuoteWerks for you. Maybe you need to create a follow-up activity. You want to set a reminder for yourself or for someone else. We can do that. One-off activity is the exact same thing as the follow-up activity, it just lets you do more than one. So if you need to maybe create a reminder for yourself and for one of your engineers or something like that, you can do that. And then if you want to create a service ticket at this point, we can do that as well. If you're not creating the service ticket until the client has actually accepted the document, we'll be able to do that at the end as well, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And the first thing it's going to do is allow us to create the new ConnectWise opportunity. Now, if the opportunity has already been created, we can actually link to it by clicking on the drop-down here. And this will show us a list of the opportunities that are available that we can link to. And I could select a different opportunity to link to. In our case, I just want to create a brand new opportunity since we're doing a demonstration here. And this is going to be our opportunity name. From the type field down, this is all going to be ConnectWise field. So we're pulling all this field data from ConnectWise. So you can set your type, the status of the opportunity, put in a description, the close date, rating, sales stage, probability, all that information will be set here. And again, pulling from ConnectWise at this point. So if you want something that you don't see in here, that means you need to add it to ConnectWise for it to show up in QuoteWerks. And then your forecast lines, the forecast prefix we'll use is just the document number. That's just so you can see, basically kind of let you know that, hey, this came from QuoteWerks since it's using the document number. And then if you want to include revenue in the total forecast, you can check that box, and that'll actually let you show the revenue in ConnectWise, as well as we can create or update the individual items in ConnectWise. We make this a checkbox because since you're doing a quote or a proposal, you may not actually sell these items, so you may not want to clutter ConnectWise up with a bunch of items that you're never going to sell. So what we can do is we can leave this unchecked, and we'll still create the forecast for you. We just won't write the individual line items into ConnectWise. In our case, I'm going to go ahead and do Create Update just so you can see what that looks like. And then on the Attachments tab, you can see you can actually choose different files to attach to the document. So if you want to include like the RFP or the RFQ or something else, you can do that here. I got a question. Someone's asking if I'll show the quote before we go to ConnectWise. Yeah, we're going to create this in ConnectWise, and then I'll actually show you what the document can look like in QuoteWerks. So let's go ahead and hit Save. So it's going to create that opportunity in ConnectWise, going to add the items to the opportunity for me. If you uncheck that box, then it's obviously not going to add them to ConnectWise. If the items don't exist, QuoteWerks will go ahead and create them for you. And then it'll prompt you, here's our ConnectWise activity. So if you wanted to set that reminder, you can do that. It's pretty straightforward. You can choose who you want to assign it to, specify a time, set a reminder. I'm just going to hit cancel since we don't need to do that. And then if you wanted to create service tickets at this point, you can. So you can see this is going to bring up your create service ticket window, and you can choose the service board, the status, all that information. Make sure you put in a summary, which is basically like the ticket name, as well as any descriptions. If you need to create more than one, simply click Create New. If you just need the one, click Create. I'm not going to create it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Cancel. All right. So actually, let's go to the ConnectWise opportunity just real quick, just so you can see what it looks like. So if we click on the ConnectWise opportunity here, this will actually open up our opportunity in ConnectWise. And let me click on my link again here. I had to be re-logged in. There we go. So it opens up my opportunity, and you can see here's all the line items, all the information came over exactly as I needed it to. And then basically anytime you need to make changes in QuoteWerks, you know, if the client says, hey, remove this item, add this item, that kind of thing, all you have to do to update the opportunity is just resave it. Just hit save, and it'll update that opportunity since it's already linked. Okay, so now we're ready to deliver the document to the client. So let's click on our deliver icon. And now we can choose exactly what we want the document to look like. So we'll pretend this is a new client. We want to send them more of a proposal style document, just so they have a little more information about our company. So we're going to choose a cover page, and we'll go and we'll select our cover page here. And then you can see on the right-hand side, as you start selecting different layouts and items like that, your different options will be available here. So I'm building my document. So this is my cover page. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to the top, so you can actually choose in kind of which order you want items to print. Then on my layout, I have my primary and additional. The primary is a layout tab. It's required. You have to pull a layout from the primary. So in this case, I have my layout already selected. If I want to attach additional layouts, I can. This is extremely useful if you have something else. Maybe it's in a Word document, or in this case, maybe I have a summary table that I want to include, just kind of so it breaks it out to the client a little easier, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add that here. Your literature tab is going to be any type of documentation that you may want to include with this quote or proposal. So if you have a warranty information, terms and conditions, things like that that go out with almost every quote or proposal, the literature tab is where you can attach them here. So in this case, I have a support agreement I want to include, so I'm going to go ahead and select my support agreement. Spec sheets are typically designed for the specific items on the document. So if you have more technical information about with an item in the document, it'll show up here. It'll look very similar to the literature tab, where it'll have little check boxes next to it, and you can select which ones you want. And then if you have anything on the links tab that you want to include, it'll show up here, again, very similar to the literature tab with check boxes, and you can choose which ones you want to include. So I have all my selections. So let's go ahead and preview our document before we send it out to our client. And we're just going to make that a little smaller so it's a little easier to see here. Now this is fully customizable, so you can really make your documents look however you like. So I have just a pretty basic cover page here. We then have an executive summary, and this is all macroed information, so it's pulling in from my documents. I don't have to manually type it in each time. So then we just kind of have an introduction, and then we get into our line items. And again, this is fully customizable. You can make these documents look however you'd like. And this just has a kind of brief summary about deposit required, the different items, more information about it. And then on our next page, we actually had a summary broken out so the customer can actually see kind of what they're purchasing. So they can see their initial investment, if they have any recurring charges, if there's anything other charges. In this case, they have some optional items that may not be included. If they have anything that's billed monthly, that's broken out for them so they can quickly look through this and see exactly what they have. And then if we scroll down a little more, we also have our support agreement in here. So we have our support agreement information in here as well, so they can actually see exactly what they're purchasing and what the agreement's going to be. And this one even has like a signature page on the bottom so the client can sign off on it. So it's an 11-page document, but we're going to send it as a single PDF file. Now in QuoteWerks, we can just email this directly to the client, and we can just send that PDF file. We also have the option of delivering it via Quote Valet. So that's how we're actually going to send that. To send it via Quote Valet, you're going to do everything the same way we just did. Anytime you use Quote Valet, you're still going to build your document just like we did. You're going to select your layout, your literature files, cover pages, all that information. You're always going to do that. The only difference is instead of choosing email after you preview it, we're just going to choose upload to Quote Valet. Here you can actually see if you set up document approvals, you can actually require approval before it's sent out to the client. So in this case, I'm just going to override it because I have master rights. But your normal sales reps wouldn't be able to override it. They'd actually have to request approval first. So we're going to go ahead and upload it to Quote Valet. And depending on the size of your document, it's going to be dependent on how long it takes to upload. So this one's pretty large, but doesn't take too long. And then typically you're going to preview it before you send it to the client. So we're going to click on Preview so we can actually view what it would look like before we send it to the client. And this is all fully customizable, so if you want to put in your own banner, your own logo, change the colors, it's all done in HTML, so you can make all those changes. You'll see here we do include a copy of the HTML or the PDF, so if the client does need a copy of this, they can print this out and they can actually view this in their document or in their, print out a copy for their own records. And then if we scroll down, we can actually see the individual items here. Now I don't have my document set up this way, but you do have the ability to actually let the client change the quantity. So if you want to give your client the ability to do that, you can set up the template to show that. You also have the ability, if you remember, we talked about the optional items, so the client can select or deselect these optional items. And here, if I choose Update, it'll actually change the pricing of the document in real time. So right now it's at 38. If I choose Update, it goes back to 44. So the client can actually go through and select the optional items that they want to include. You can also set up mutually exclusive options. So instead of there being checkboxes, it would be a radio button, and they can choose one from the different mutually exclusive options on the document. And then down here, the client can sign off on the document. So when they're ready to move forward, they can do that. If they have any questions, they can post their comment here, and you'll actually receive a notification when that happens. So if the client's ready to move forward, everything looks good, they're ready to go. We'll go ahead and sign off on it. So we'll say Joshua test and we'll accept the document. Now, when your client accepts via QuoteValley, this is automatically going to send you an email notifying you that the client has signed off on the document. If you accept credit card, this Pay Now button will be available. This will actually let you make payment through QuoteValley. So if you click on it, you can see here, it'll bring them to a payment screen where they can actually make payment on the document. I have it set up where it requires the full amount, but you can set up a different deposit amount. So if you want them to put 20% down, or maybe just pay for the services or the hardware up front, you can do that as well. It's going to be customizable for you. And then back in QuoteWerks, once your client has accepted it via QuoteValley, QuoteValley will actually tell you, QuoteWerks is going to tell you, hey, this document was accepted through QuoteValley. Do you want to convert it to an order? Converting a quote to an order is how we essentially close the quote in QuoteWerks. If you're not using QuoteValley and you just want to convert a quote to an order, very easy. Just do File, Convert to Order, and it brings up that same window. And then when I hit OK, that's going to change my quote to an order. You can see that here. And then now it's actually going to update my opportunity in ConnectWise. So if anything had changed, if the client had deselected an option, changed the quantity, anything like that, we're updating this existing opportunity in ConnectWise so that we can make any changes before we move forward with like creating the sales order or anything like that. So you can see here it's going to change our status to 1. We can even change our sales stage to committed if we wanted to, or to 1. Our forecast status is automatically changed to 1. And then again, this is where you can create those tickets. So, you know, we talked about it before. If you needed to create a ticket, if you wanted to wait until the client actually moved forward, you can choose to create a ticket on the services only, products and services, or each service. So if you wanted to do a ticket for products and services, or maybe you wanted to do services only and then products only, you could do that. If you don't want to create any tickets, you can set it to none. So it'll just bring up that same window that we had before. This is also going to now make sure that those items are sent into ConnectWise, because if you're going to be doing any of your billing out of ConnectWise, which probably a lot of you are, you need those items in ConnectWise. So now it's going to actually force the creation of the items in ConnectWise if they don't exist. And then we'll hit Save. If you want to create the sales order from the opportunity from QuoteWerks, just check this box. If you don't, just leave it unchecked. It's up to you. And then we'll hit Save. And that's just reminding me saying, hey, you selected not to create any tickets. Are you sure you want to do that? So it's just kind of like another reminder for you that, oh, maybe you didn't mean to check that. So that'll update my opportunity in ConnectWise with any changes. You can see here it's going to add those items. So if the client had deselected an option or changed the quantity or anything like that, it's going to make sure that everything that the client accepted in QuoteWerks is going to be updated in ConnectWise correctly. And right now it's actually creating the sales order in ConnectWise. So now that your document has been converted to an order, if you're going to be doing any of the purchasing in QuoteWerks, now you can actually go to the purchasing window. So a document has to be converted from a quote to an order in order for the purchasing window to open up here. Let me just move this down here so it's a little easier to see. So now when I click on my purchasing window, this is going to show me for my currently open order all these items, and then I can sort by vendor. So if I want to say, okay, I want to place my order for my D&H, I can hit select my vendor of D&H, checkbox, and then I can do place online order. Now this is live, so I can't actually place this order, but you can see it's pretty straightforward, where it's going to have your PO number. You can put in a description, how you want to handle back ordering if that's an issue, and then it'll basically verify your current pricing availability. It'll let you validate the order, and then you submit the order. Once you submit the order, QuoteWerks will create a purchase order in QuoteWerks. That purchase order can automatically be exported to QuickBooks or to ConnectWise and Sage 50. So if you're using any of those 3 systems for your purchase orders, you can have QuoteWerks actually send the purchase order to those systems automatically. Like I said, I'm going to hit cancel there because that is live. So if we wanted to do, so let's say we have these 2 ConnectWise items and we want to create a PO, we can choose Create PO, and then we can set our PO number, and then we can choose where we're going to copy the data to, and then hit OK. If I had said I wanted to create a PO in ConnectWise, there would have been a checkbox that says Export to ConnectWise, or Export to QuickBooks, or Export to Sage 50 if I wanted to. And then if we go to our Purchase Orders tabs, you can see a list of all the purchase orders created in QuoteWorks. So if you want to say, okay, let's just look at today, there's our 2. If I had placed these online order through a distributor, through Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synnex, or D&H, I would get my shipping information from here. So I'd actually be able to see when a tracking number came in, when a serial number came in, that information would be here. You can add that manually as well. So if you are using another vendor or you purchase through like Amazon or something like that, you can see that information here as well as mark it as received if you'd like. So that's pretty much it from start to finish. If you guys do have any questions, I'll hang out for the next few minutes and answer that. If there's something that you didn't see that you wanted to see, we'll make sure we cover that. Again, I thank everyone for their time today. If you do have questions, if something wasn't clear, definitely let us know. We'd be happy to help. This was recorded, so we'll make sure that we send out an email blast here in the next couple days so you can get a copy of this as well. So I'm going to stop the recording, but I'll hang out for a few minutes and answer any questions that you may have. So again, thank you for your time today, and hope everyone has a great day.